Defence Minister Richard Marles has ruled out any tax increases to pay for the AUKUS submarine deal while in Washington DC. He and the Foreign Minister Wong have wrapped up 2 days of high-level meetings. Our Washington correspondent Annelise Nielsen joins us live now. Annelise, what progress has been made over the last 2 days?
Well, we've been promised that the AUKUS nuclear submarine deal is crystallising before our eyes, but more realistically, it's all still happening behind closed doors. We haven't heard much about any of the concrete details out of these 2 days of meetings between the Foreign Minister, the Defence Minister and their US counterparts. But what we have heard is there is going to be an increase in military participation between Australia and the US, including more military rotations from the US in Australia in the coming year. Now, that's not much different from what we heard last year, but what we've been told is that was an increase in marine rotations. We're also going to see Air Force and Army as well as Navy rotations right across the board. And so that's going to be a difference in the next year. What we're buying from the US is still up in the air. They're discussing what's going to happen with these nuclear submarines. Now, some estimates have this program costing around $70 billion. Very hard to tell when it's all happening hush-hush. But what we did hear from Richard Marles today was a no, that there's not going to be a tax increase to pay for these submarines.
US policy should be based on a clear understanding of what the rest of the Indo-Pacific wants. And so when I travel, I discuss the future plans of our partners and listen to their hopes and anxieties. The region sees development, connectivity, digital trade and the energy transition as vital domains in which consistent US leadership and influence would be welcome. America's decision not to proceed with the CPTPP is still being felt in the region, just as the decision not to proceed with the TTIP is being felt by international partners.
No, I mean we are the cost of this is something that we have said will be addressed in the announcements that we make in the first part of next year, and that's what we'll do.
Sorry, Pete, bit of confusion with the order there. So you heard Richard Marles on that tax question, but before that was Wong. Now, we're at the Carnegie Institute where she was speaking to a room, the front line of ambassadors, all from Pacific Island nations and the Southeast Asian region. Now, this has been quite critical in Australia's push to reassert not only our own influence in the Indo-Pacific, but also the American influence. But what was interesting to hear in the speech was Wong saying that of course, there's not any push from the US or Australia to be forcing either side to take sides against China when you're talking to these smaller nations. But what we did hear was some advice from Wong to the United States, saying that if they want to have more security influence in the region, they need to push up the economic influence as well. And so that's what Wong was saying there just before. It's been a busy few days here in Washington.
Yeah, and I think we can tell that it was a busy few days for Wong too, because her throat sounded like it wasn't the best. So hopefully she can get some rest after all of that. Annelise?
We were promised it was laryngitis and not COVID. There were many COVID tests, and she did have to cancel a Q&A for that. So it was noticed. And we also noticed there weren't that many handshakes happening for a professional diplomat either, but she did push on.
Yeah, no, like a trooper. Thank you, Annelise.